Welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we are taking a look at a, well, not war game?
No, it's not a war game. It has conflict.
Yes.
But it is based on the coin series, meaning it has a lot of similarities.
It is influenced by the coin series.
Yes, influenced by the coin series. I think that's a better term.
So it's called Robotech Reconstruction, and it is made by
Strange Machine Games.
Strange Machine Games. So this is going to be up for pre-order very soon.
On June the 9th.
June the 9th. So this is, like you said, this is inspired by the coin series. So it's kind of dudes on a map, area control.
Well, and coin stands for counter-insurgency.
Yes.
The concept of that is you've got a government or major power versus kind of an insurgent-style rebellion of some kind. And then this is a 4-player game, so the other two factions support. One kind of supports the government, the other one supports the insurgency, yet they're trying to win on their own in their own way.
Yes, they're trying to support to an extent until they want to subvert and win themselves.
Until they can win, jump ahead and win. So that concept of asymmetry.
Very, all factions work differently and have different goals.
Absolutely.
And then,
so that's why it's coin inspired.
We've seen a lot of that stuff in the coin series and games like that. And then it uses a card-based initiative system, which is different from coin, but shares some of the same
feels
concepts.
Similar, yes.
Conceptually, where I can either do something for myself, but it's not great, or I can help you out, you do a thing, and then I get to do an even better thing.
Right.
And so those choices between taking big actions versus small actions to hose you, that's also something that is you see a lot in that coin initiative system as well.
Yeah.
Picking what things you're going to do as a knock-on effect.
So that coin initiative system, really what it is if I take a certain thing like an event, then it remains wide open, so my opponent potentially can do whatever they would like.
Yeah, command and special activity.
Yes. Or I can choose to be a little stingy. I don't really help myself as much as I could. Maybe I only take one action.
Yes.
And then you can only do one action. You have no other choice.
And very limited. But in this one, if I'm stingy, you get nothing.
Right, exactly.
It's very much like, I don't get to do very much, but you get to do nothing. Whereas if you play this with some kind of negotiation, I'm playing this for my ally, you're both doing quite a lot of things. So you do stuff out of turn, so to speak, in this one as well, which is interesting.
And it actually creates a very interesting dynamic between you and your ally. I'm going to call him a proto-ally, because they're really not an ally, but so it turned around where I was using the cards in my hand to some ways try to benefit him, because ultimately it benefited me.
Yes.
And desperately, I was trying to bury in my hand cards that really helped you a lot. For instance, one of them allowed you to literally move like 5 guys to your side of the pendulum.
Yes.
And it was like, I can never play that card. So I loved that struggle of, I got to keep this card buried. And it was just lucky that I drew that card. You could have drawn that card.
Yes.
You could have ultimately then played it on your activation to take that action, but you wouldn't have got any other action.
Yes.
So it's a balance, and I really found that fascinating.
And what I really like about this game is you get all of that in a very short time.
It's advertised as what, 2 hours?
1 to 2 hours, I think.
And I would say once you've played
120 minutes.
120 minutes. I would say once you've played this maybe twice or 3 times, I think this is going to be done in hour and 15. Because a lot of it is just learning. I feel very similar to a coin game where I'm looking at my options, my menu of commands and special activities, and I'm trying to marry them with what works the best for me. I got that feeling, but there aren't as many options. But it still required me to think, okay, what's the situation? What's your situation? What do I want to do, and how am I going to do that?
Yes.
So I think once you understand that better, I think the process is going to speed up, and I think this is a 75-minute game.
The first time we played this, it was about half an hour a turn because we were talking through a lot of things, learning the rules. That's the first time. The next time you play it, it will be shorter than that.
Yeah, we cut off probably 20 minutes total because we understood things better. We knew what we were doing. We knew how to get it done. Now, the other thing about these games, and we have this experience with the Coin Series games from GMT, I'll play one faction.
Yes.
You'll play another. And then sometimes we'll swap or we'll play another faction, and man, it's like relearning.
It's a whole new game.
The whole thing over again. So I think that aids in the replayability of this game.
Very much so. There's a lot of things that contribute to the replay value of this. That, trying out new factions is a big thing, but you'll want to play a faction more than one time so you can master it.
At least 2 or 3 you're going to take to really understand, here's what I got to do.
The way a card draw will be entirely different and will entirely change what you do.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's huge differences with that. So as such, there's a lot of replay. This has this. I almost think this has more replay. Well, either more or an equal amount of replay to something like Root, where again, same thing. Different factions. You can play a whole different faction every time. It'll be different.
Yep.
But this one, the cards and the way those come out and the action menus, you have a lot more choice.
Yeah.
Whereas with Root, it's like you go through your birdsong, then your day.
Yeah, it's a little more scripted in that way.
It's a little more structured. Here, it's like you get 2 actions, you get to do
whatever you want.
You got to figure it out. So but it's like that in a way where it's wide open and it rewards more plays. And if you're playing with a group, it's not that long. So this is a game that you will and can revisit regularly.
This is a game that I think you could play twice in an evening and even get another smaller game in.
Yeah.
So it might be one of those games that you guys kind of mill through over a month or 6 weeks, and then everybody's played every faction.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the table armed with an understanding of, okay, here's this faction and what I'm trying to do, and then I now understand better what the other 3 factions are trying to do and how I can potentially affect that. I really like. The other thing I really enjoyed about this was your management of your resources, your protoculture.
Yes.
So the RDF, which is the government, that's the faction I played in our first game. They're going to get more money unless people use their scarce actions to move into these different zones to pick up those protoculture tokens.
Bonuses,
If we left those, and we did that a couple of times, I got a whole bunch of money, 9. And 9 of those really makes it.
And that's on top of your regular income.
That's on top of my regular income. So that's another element that I felt was a battle, was to keep those resources for myself and for you guys to keep them away from me as the RDF player.
Right, and every time you fight over those, you're not doing something else.
You're taking actions that don't necessarily benefit you, although it's typically a move action, so you can still get good benefit, but yes.
If you can tie it with it. But that's one of those things that I love about games like this, right? Because in reality, the core of these games is it's a dudes on a map. I have a bunch of guys in the area, I therefore control that area.
Yep.
That control allows me to do a certain number of actions, or it might contribute to my victory conditions. So that's tons of games are like that. I love them. I've got a bunch of those downstairs.
Area control is a fun mechanic.
Yeah, I like those games. Now, with this, and again with other coin games, Root, things like that, there's the extra layers on top of that. So you've got these industrial areas that you have to. That doesn't contribute to my victory conditions. It doesn't contribute to
allow you to do anything
there, but
you get the money.
It's me money, which
allows you to do stuff.
Which later on can contribute to my victory conditions, or it stops you. Or there's once we have control, then the Zendrati Rebellion and the Robotech Defense Force can start vying over the control of the population.
Yeah,
you're trying to get them contented. I'm trying to subvert them and get them to join my rebellion, and they come off the board. That means you can't get them back as victory points, and they join my army, and I have more units to spend as well, and it's victory points.
Yeah, they turn into your covert soldiers, who really represent the rebels, right? The concept of the covered insurgent unit.
So I've got like little insurgent soldiers. They're covert on one side, it says covert on them, and then they flip them up, and there's an overt side, and then mechs, right?
Yeah,
you can't hide a mech in a
bush. They jumped in their mech and they're shooting. So that concept compares very well to that coin series concept.
Yeah, you can't kill my covert units. You can kill my overt units. So you're trying to move, flip them,
and I'm trying to figure out how to get in there, flip you over, and kill you. And it's hard to do. You can't do it necessarily in one action. There was an event card, and I wish I had the name of it. It literally allowed me to move a bunch of units, flip over a bunch of guys, and attack them immediately in the same space.
And this is part of where your ally, who's kind of a natural ally, and your negotiation comes into place, right? You might say, I'm going to move in, and I'm going to uncover these guys. Please bombard them, and nix them. That stuff's really important. You can get away in other coin games with doing less of that stuff.
Yeah.
You can kind of do your own thing.
This one, I feel like you're really tied to each other until you're not, and you want to break that knot, and you want to win yourself.
But part of that is because the game is so short. Mm-hmm. There are 4 rounds, and there are 4 cards in each round.
That's 16 cards that are going to come out.
And you have 1 turn of those 4.
Yeah.
So the game is 16 cards long,
Yep.
of which you will have 4 turns,
Yep.
and you might, over the course of that game, get a couple of extra events from someone else playing your event cards. But it's not guaranteed.
No, it's not.
So,
but I will say this, though. We noticed the trend was generally you got about the same amount of cards for you played by other players. It wasn't like I felt like the AUL got 7 cards and I only got 1. I felt like I got very comparable to other people in this initiative lineup play. It never felt like it was one-sided, and I like that. And I think that's because the cards are, they're balanced out, and you're generally going to go through most of them. Most of
the time, but there are times where it swings, right?
Yeah.
You might get 3 cards for the Robotech Expeditionary Force
in a row. In this turn here that we've got on the board, 3 of those are for him.
And then you might get, a bunch of someone else's.
Yes.
Or it might be one of them, one of them, one of them, one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the nice part, is all of that stuff is very fluid. And you can't predict what's going to happen.
No.
And unlike something like a coin game or even Root, the turn order is not set, and you can't guess what it is. Like, the first player is set. So everyone's going to get a chance at first turn. There's 4 turns, and that's kind of fixed. But you play a card, and that card determines who the next player is. Then they're going to play a card, and their card determines who the next player is.
And if one player's already gone, they're not included in that.
Yes.
It just goes down the line. So that was
it's less open and predictable.
Yeah.
Like,
a little more random.
Who's going to be next, but not after the next person after.
Right.
And so I enjoyed that was... It was nice having it be a little bit more, secretive.
A little more chaotic.
I think that was cool as well. That was nice.
The other thing I really did enjoy about the handful of cards was, the old adage in a card-driven game, I'm trying to minimize what's going to happen negatively to me by playing your events, and I'm also trying to maximize what my hand can do for me so that I can win the game. I really felt that in this. We already kind of talked about that, but when I had certain cards of yours, I was like, I am never playing that card.
Yeah.
So it kind of became a holding space in my hand of 4 or 5 cards, and I was never going to play that. So I really like that, but hey, what if I had 3 events of yours in my hand? Eventually, I'm probably going to ultimately have to play it. Because look, this one was terrible for me too.
How likely that stuff is versus how many cards are in a deck.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know the odds, but because I think there's a total of 36 cards in the game.
Yeah, there's not a ton of cards.
A game is 16 cards long.
So there's going to be 20 cards that in essence didn't come out.
Yeah, that are just people are holding on to.
Yeah.
And so the cards that you've got that hurt you, you're like, I'm just going to hang on to those.
Yeah.
And you've got 1 or 2 cards that you're like, I can cycle through those. You play a card, you draw one at the end of your turn. You're like, hopefully it's another one that I can play.
If you remember in a game like Labyrinth, the jihadists can ultimately bury one of those cards and do a plot.
It's their first plot goes into.
So, but this game you didn't necessarily have that, but you also have other cards that kind of hide it. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. I also liked the predetermined dealt out cards that came out in those certain rounds.
Yeah, so in turn 1, there's 2 cards, and you get one, and you get one that has the faction on it.
Yeah.
So they have a hand of actually 5 cards, and those cards are special. They have a lot of stuff on them.
Yep.
They're pretty powerful what they are, but but they provide no actions.
Exactly.
So you only get what's on the card.
Yeah.
And there's 2 in the first round, 2 in the second round, 2 in the third round.
Yeah, here's an example of one. So once again, I was the RDF. This one was called To the Stars. That allowed me to choose one space, destroy all of your units.
And then take 2
from
actions.
that space, and then take 2 different actions.
Yes.
That's a very powerful card. I can literally wipe you out, whether you're covert or overt.
Yes.
Get you, or I can wipe out the AUF. Or those kind of cards are really powerful. I like that those were an option because I was looking at that and going, "Ooh, I gotta play that. I gotta play that."
And just so you don't think that that's broken, I also get a card in that round.
Very
and
similar.
It says, destroy all units
Yeah.
that aren't mine in Macross City, and then take 2 different actions.
Which
I
Macross City is
completely
my
clean it off.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna walk. What's his name?
Chiron.
I'm gonna walk in, and then I'm gonna take all your civilians away
Yeah.
if I've got the money for
Yep.
it. Right? Like it's.
So it's
there's some
important-
powerful swings here.
Yeah,
and there.
but it's important to know that as the RDF player that hey, at round 3 that can happen.
Yeah, we both have these big.
Yep. So
big
I've
swings.
got to get done what I can get done there,
And frankly, vacated.
and then get the heck out because I know you're going to kill. And I don't want to lose 5 guys.
No.
But if I can get 3 or 4 of these Entrades up to pacified, I'm okay with that. Then you can have that space. You're not going to be able to turn all those guys in one round. That's going to be really hard.
It'll be
can
hard.
be
It's
done.
expensive, yeah.
But so I liked those structured elements that were thrown into the chaos because it allowed a little bit of planning.
Yeah.
So I knew that card was coming. I'm like, I'm going to use that this time because that's going to benefit me.
And that's the one other thing that I would say about this game is that it's not only important to learn your faction, it's very important to know what everyone else can do.
Yeah.
And so your first game, unless you study everyone's player aids, and everyone does that, you'll make some fatal errors. You'll make a big stumble. There'll be a gotcha moment here.
We
where
made
someone does
several.
a thing. So just know that, and then when you set up play the second time, you'll be much more informed about things that I don't need to take a recruit action because I'm offered a free one
So there's no need to
during
waste
the
my
resolution phase.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some other things, or I've been doing a bunch of stuff. And then you're like, oh, I can just like sweep in and do a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did not know you could do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's bits and pieces like that where any asymmetric game, it is important to learn the other factions.
Well, and that's part of this style of game. You're going to have
Yes.
to play this multiple times really to understand that. The other thing that you kind of just referenced was this resolution bar.
Yes.
Which was kind of the end of each round. This process gets followed.
Yeah, and it's
If you're familiar with the coin series, it's your
very simple.
It's your coup card. It's your winter quarters card. Trying to think of another name.
Epoch
Card.
There's not like an event. You just go victory check. Everyone gets their money, and then we can influence areas back and forth.
Yep.
Some guys can recruit, and then like certain units have to move to certain areas to go home. Basically, it's all stuff you'd be very familiar with if you played any games like that.
Yeah. So I like that, and I think also understanding that before you play this game is very important.
Yeah.
And it's the same in a coin series. You've got to understand, hey, when my guys are out in these wilderness areas,
And they have to go to a
they're
fort.
going to retreat. So I don't want to move into there unless I absolutely have to. So there's a lot of things in this game that rewards multiple plays. It's going to reward... I think your strategy is going to deepen the more you play this game.
Yeah, it's a game that, because it plays quickly, it's easy to start picking that stuff up and learning it and putting it into effect. But also, as such, because the game is only 4 rounds long, and you get one play in that round that you can guarantee, it means your actions are really, really important.
Really important.
And so, making good decisions
is important.
Is key. You, like if you make a misstep here or there, like you can.
It'll set you back.
You're going to set yourself back. It's a real hurt, or you can set someone else up to win by accident. You're like, oh. So what I'll do is I'll show you the board, and again, this is a prototype, so it's not fun.
I think a nice looking prototype, but it is still a prototype.
Yes. So I'll show you that, and then we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the map. It is divided up into a number of territories. These kind of circular round ones are cities, and then these ones in the middle are just regular kind of open territories, and then these 3 industrial zones that generate protoculture. Protoculture is tracked on here. This is your resource, this is your currency. You're going to spend your protoculture to do actions. You see, there's a whole bunch of guys on the board here. There are pieces, these little hexagonal pieces. They are like military units or insurgent units. So there's big mechs. So we've got these Veritech fighters and their battle suits. We have I think these are the battle pods for the RAF. Then there's these partisans for the Anti-Unification League. And then I did the Zentrati Rebellion, so you got these covert soldiers, and then these overt mechas as well. There are a couple of standees as well. Each faction has a standee, and it can be your kind of big flagship for the RAF. Or there's a couple of characters, so we have Rick Hunter and Chiron, and then everyone's favorite Meme, and she can put on concerts for the people. That's a thing that can happen in this game. So the turn order is one of the very interesting parts of this game. This is a little kind of turn order track down here. We have this little sheet, and again, this is a prototype, so that's like a big white piece that we need to cut off here. But here we've got, this is the resolution phase, which we would do at the end of a round. But the first turn, the RDF goes first. The second turn, the REF goes first. Then the AUL, the Anti-Unification League. And then on the fourth turn of the game, the Zentrati Rebellion goes first. So the first player is determined by this. So on the first turn, it's even printed on the map. The RDF goes first. So the RDF's got a hand of 4 cards. And we'll just grab 4 cards here. So you have a hand of 4 cards, and you can choose to play any one of these, and it has a number of different consequences if you do. And we can just clear these ones off. So what we'll look at is just the turn order. So the turn order is determined by these icons. So they're going to play this card, let's say. Now if they do, you go from top to bottom, and you look at who hasn't gone yet. So this first one is the Anti-Unification League. They haven't gone yet, so Anti-Unification League is going to have the next turn. And then a whole bunch of stuff's going to happen for that turn. Then it's going to go to the Anti-Unification League's turn. They're going to play a card, and when they play a card, they're going to play this one. And you go from top to bottom. Well, RDF's gone, AUL's gone, so then we're going to go to the Zentrati Rebellion. It's going to be the Zentrati Rebellion's going to go next, and then as such, the REF has to go last. So this is a little bit fluid, the turn order, which I really enjoyed. Thought that was a neat little part of the game. Now, so that's your first decision, is you can, by the card you play, influence who goes next. On top of that, you have these events that are on the cards, and you can make some choices about who goes where and when. So, if it's your turn, and you play an event card that has your symbol on it, you get to do this action yourself, and this black box that says execute 1 move action, you don't get to do that. And then after you've done with your event card, you can do 1 action from your normal actions. And there's a little menu here, they have a cost, they have a requirement, and then there's an execution of what happens with it. Okay? That's if you play your own one. So playing your own cards kind of limits what you can do, because if I'm the RDF and I play this for the REF, right? It's got someone else's symbol. They get to do, well, I didn't play that one. let me get a better example. Okay, we'll play this one here. They get to take this event, so they can place their flagship in any space and make a free attack in that space. So my ally's going to get to do a cool thing. Then my ally's going to get to execute 1 flip action, which is an action they have that they can pay for and execute if they want. And then because I played something that wasn't my own, I get to do 2 actions, one of which can be normal, and this unlocks the special actions, and the special actions usually have stuff that actually affects your victory conditions. So you are incentivized to play cards for other people so that you can get some of these really good special actions, which again are going to really help you to win the game a lot of the time. So there's this influence action down here, and influence is going to move these civilians up, and the RDF are trying to get the civilians up to this green spot where they're contented. If they get 5 content civilians, That's their victory conditions. But again, you can only do that with a special action, and you can only unlock the special actions if you play a card for someone else. So you're trying to play cards probably for your natural ally, or you might play cards for someone else if the game states such a way where you don't mind doing that. So that again, this is part of the really interesting parts of this game where I play a card, I could do something that's for myself, I'm guaranteed to take a cool action, but it limits, I don't get the extra free stuff, and I only get one normal action. I can't get any of that influence, for example. I can only do some moves or attacks, things like that. And then once I'm done with all my stuff, it goes to the next person, they're going to play a card, same thing again. So whilst I played a card for someone else, what did I do with it? I put it over here. So I played a card for it was underneath there, there you go. I played a card for someone else, so now it goes to the AUL's turn, because they're the first one here. They're going to play a card, and the card that they play might have an action that I get to take. So it's kind of like there's this mini economy of actions that you don't have a lot of control over, but you can do the stuff on your turn, but then out of turn, someone might play a card that's got your event on it. You get to do some free stuff. And so, again, you got, as allies, I'm going to play one for you, you're going to play one for me. You can do things like that. You can talk about that. You can negotiate that. Hey, I'm going to play a really good card for you. If you've got a good one for me, please play it on your turn. None of that's binding, so they might screw you over later on in the game. But that's the kind of table conversation that you're encouraged to have by the rules and by the game state. But when it's your turn, like I said, you'll do all these events and things, and you just do what it says. It's very simple. And then you get an option of some actions and things you can do. So for the RDF, their actions are very, very expensive, but they have a lot of money and they have a lot of access to other money. So there's kind of a trade-off there, but costs 3, and you can move any of your own units residing in one space to any adjacent spaces. So you pay 3, and you pay your little 3 on your resource track over here, and so then you take any of your units that are in one space, you can move them to any adjacent spaces. So you could move them all into one space, or you could move one down here, you could move 2 in here, and you could move, another one down here, for example. And why this is important is because this was controlled by the AUL. Now we're tied, they've got 2, I've got 2. This control goes away, and control affects a lot of actions. So for example, now if this is the game board state, the AUL can't recruit because they need to have control of a territory to recruit in this area. Can't recruit guys in there. They can't build in a city there because they need to have control there. So control is very important. That's kind of the first layer of the puzzle. For the RDF and for the Zentradi Rebellion, control is also really important because if you control an area, so we control this area here, if it's the Zentradi Rebellion's turn, they can move Chiron, or they can jump him over here. If they do that, here, flip this. They have control, and we have Chiron there. Now we can start spending coin to influence these civilians who currently are in the green, which is a victory condition for the RDF. We can spend 1 coin, 2 coins. If we get them a 3rd coin, they go off the board, and that's a victory point for us. So again, control's important because it helps some players actually gain victory. So the AUL have to control 5 cities, and the Expeditionary Force have to control 7 territories, just any 7 areas. But the RDF and the Zentradi Rebellion are trying to control areas so that they can then influence the civilians. So it gets just extra layers upon layers upon layers of things, which again, it's very, very enjoyable to do that kind of thing, and see the interactions between everyone as you try to maybe negotiate something, or think you might make a compromise. Sure, you're going to take that away, but I'm going to do something else over here whilst you're concentrating over here. Like we said, nothing is safe in this game, and that's something that I really, really like about this. There's more to it as you dive into it with how your action menus are set up, the types of actions that you can do, being able to fight people, remove their pieces, moving around, controlling areas, trying to secure your victory points so that once 4 cards are played and we get into the resolution phase, there's a number of steps you go through, the first of which is a victory check. You skip that on the first round, so you can't auto-win in round 1. But starting with round 2 of your 4 rounds. If you're in your victory conditions and it's the last card is completed, boom, you can win a major victory that way. If it gets to the end of the 4th round and no one's won a major victory, then you compare up VPs and there's minor victories awarded to 2 players. But that's kind of the core of this game. It is very much similar to a coin game in that you have control of areas based on pieces, and you need control to start affecting the support and opposition, so to speak, of the civilians. So this is it's a fun theme for Grant. I know he likes it, but that's most of how this game works. The initiative system is cool, and that it's also organic and it's not just fixed. I enjoyed that, and the way that you choose to play your cards and the actions that provides or denies is something that I like a lot. And it's just something it's different from that core coin system, but it gives you a similar type of feel. And with this theme on it, it's great. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So that's a look at the map and how the game functions. We've played a lot of coin games, so learning this was very easy.
Yes.
So
it wasn't so easy for our 2 compatriots tonight. They have never really played these kind of coin series game.
But they picked it up.
But they did. They picked it up. I think we had an advantage because we kind of knew what that asymmetry was going to be.
Like when I was reading the rules, and the rules are not long.
10 pages.
I mean, it's, yeah. Like
Plus they have some nice examples of play, which is really good.
So it's 20 pages, but this is components, setup.
Like
right?
10 pages of rules, basically.
Yeah, because everything is on your play. This is your menu. These are really good.
Yep.
And everything's pictorial. So it's like, it costs 1 of these. And if you have control in the territory with Chiron, you can then shift 1. Mm-hmm. It is very explicit.
Very easy to understand.
Very clear to understand. Yep. I mean, it's not complicated.
The costs are written there. I even really enjoyed this recurring symbol because you can do those multiple times when you take that action.
As long as you got the money.
As long as you got them, you got to pay for it. But as long as you got that money.
Yeah, I really like how they do that. But it's very, I don't know, it was easy to learn. And I don't know, I thought, I really liked it because of that. But being a coin veteran, this was, I mean, it's so easy to learn.
Yeah, if you've played a lot of coin series games, I think you're going to pick this up very, very easily.
Yes. And if you haven't, the rulebooks aren't that challenging,
no.
And you'll step right into it anyway. It's not a complicated rules-wise game.
No. Well, and then it's
the strategy's got some.
Yeah, that's where you're going to have to learn.
That's where the finesse is, and that's what to me, that's what makes a good game, right?
Yeah.
If it's easy to learn and hard to master,
that's exactly what you want.
Right? And every time you play this, it'll be different. One move. The map is small.
Yes. There's only like 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
7,
6,
13,
7, 8,
14, 15, 16 spaces, I think.
Yeah, total.
15, and like, so one move, one space totally changes where everyone is. Everyone's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
We got ourselves a standoff, and everyone's pointing their guns.
And I really like that because, man, I felt like I could get anywhere I really wanted to as long as I had the money that I needed.
Yes.
But I like that because nobody was really safe.
No,
and I think I realized one time you jumped Chiron in there, and I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble now.
Oops.
Because I kind of left my back door open, but I was able to get enough of a lead that it didn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
But I did like that it was, we've used this phrase, knife fight in a phone booth, for games like Cuba Libre, which is Coin Series Volume number 2 on the Cuban Revolution. This feels similar to that in the tight space and the small number.
It is very claustrophobic, this map.
Some of the other coin games like Fire in the Lake, you've got so many more spaces. Plus you've got lines of communication that you can occupy and river spaces. So this was smaller, compact. I liked that. I felt like we were at each other from the get-go. And frankly, I really enjoyed this game. Now, I enjoy Robotech.
Yes, that's a fair point.
I grew up in the 70s and 80s when Robotech was on TV, and I watched this every morning before school. I got up 20 minutes early so that I could get ready, eat breakfast, and be ready to watch this at 6:30 before the bus came at 7:05. So for me, the theme is everything in this one.
Right.
This was very attractive to me. Love the characters, love the concept, love the story. But throw on top of that the fact that I love the coin series, and this is a coin-inspired game. to me, this is a home run. I
Yes.
really enjoyed this. I can't wait to get the final version so that we can, play a real version. Although this is a very nice prototype, I'd like to have this game in my collection and play it with family and friends who like Robotech. My brother loves Robotech too.
And again, it's not a long game. So
No.
this is going to be palatable to a lot of people.
It's going to appeal to a lot of different, younger, maybe even older children like 12, 13 are going to pick this up. And anyway, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with this.
Yeah, it's funny because we go to Gen Con most years, and there's always a new Robotech game being displayed. Whether it's a tabletop RPG
or a card
miniatures
game. Yep.
There's been a card game. There was like a Euro game where you were like building.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
I do. I don't remember what it's called, but
this is the first one that we've actually played.
Yeah.
That wasn't just a demo there. That was so I knew you were going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And but
so take my comments with a grain of salt, but I really think the mechanics here are great.
Yes.
The theme is great. It's really integrated well. Love the card activation system. Love the way your resources work. Love the way you work together. But yeah, this is the first Robotech game I played in a long time that I really, really got and enjoyed.
Yeah, and for me, I like the mechanics of this game.
Yeah.
I've watched some of that show.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Macross Plus,
Yeah.
which is like a spin-off of this, maybe?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
And so, the theme is, sure, I know you like the theme, but the mechanics, this kind of
Very
game is
good.
right up my alley.
Yeah.
I love my dudes on a map. I love my coin-style games. I like asymmetrical factions and victory conditions with layers upon layers of things that are going on in one space alone.
Yeah.
That stuff is what's mouth-watering to me. That's the stuff I like. And to have it in such a 16-card game.
Yeah, it very approachable, very understandable, very playable.
Yeah, I was worried. Like at first, I'm like, man, it's only 16 cards long. Is it gonna be fulfilling enough?
What was my comment? How in the world am I going to do everything that I want to do? How are you going to get 11 Zentradi civilians off the board? Man, we saw it almost happen, right?
Right.
It can happen really quick. 4 turns is a lot longer than you actually really realize.
Yes, and
it feels a lot.
And then
longer.
I was worried, and then it was conversing. I'm like, oh, is this gonna be too fragile?
Yeah.
Because it's so short, one person can do one thing. And it's like,
yeah,
but no.
Yeah.
It was.
You guys, I won that last game, and you guys almost got me out of that winning position.
You won by 1 victory.
Yeah, and it's just like, to me, that's a sign of a good game. We played it for 75 minutes, and it came down to the end.
Yeah.
Every time we play, it's come down to the end, and I think that's good.
Yes, and the 2-hour runtime is
probably for people that don't understand the system.
And if you want
and
to
the
take your
concept.
time, but if you're any kind of veteran like we are, this is a very quick game.
Yeah.
So, Robotech Reconstruction from
Strange Machine Games.
It is up for pre-order soon, depending on when you're watching this
June
video.
the 9th.
June the 9th.
And Dr. And I'm going to butcher the name, Dr. Wicks, and it's actually 2 guys. One guy has a doctorate in economics.
Okay.
And they've kind of merged their name together and created this game together. So I think they did a heck of a job.
Yes.
I would like to see them maybe take this to another level and maybe even do other themes or other type games, but this is where it's at right here for me.
Yes, no.
Really enjoyed it, so good job.
Yes.
To me.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.